be prepared. Take a deep breath, let it out, because Jurgen has got a lot of great ideas and concepts, and he's pulled these together. He's written the book Management 3.0. He's a habitual entrepreneur, I would say, an incredible traveler, traveling all over the globe. And his recent book, some of you might have received a copy of this, Startup, Scale Up, Screw Up. He just published this year. It's now available. I would recommend that you pick this up. It's awesome. It's got 42 tools to accelerate your lean and agile growth. I did ask him why 42, and he can answer you maybe in a Q&A or if you see him in the hall. But you definitely want to know why 42. And with that, I'd just like to invite you up. Jurgen.
This is the third time, I think, right? Me at AgileCamp, isn't it, Stacy? I think, yeah. Whoa, awesome. So I'm becoming a regular here. A quick apology in advance. I have a terrible cold. I'm really suffering, sneezing, coughing, etc. So yesterday when I came into the country, I'm from the Netherlands, so I had to fly in all the way from Amsterdam. Right at the moment when I was at security border control at the customs, I had the worst coughing fit of the year. And I was like, water, please, water, please. Fingerprints, thumb, other thing. I was suffocating. And then I saw her thinking, should I let this person into the country or not? Are you bringing in any medicine? No, I just need water, for God's sake. Hurry up. Anyways, I got through, as you can see, which is awesome. And then I got to the baggage carousel, and my luggage was not there. Woohoo! It meant I could go shopping, yay! So my luggage was not there. I had to go shopping in San Francisco for new clothes, which I admit is a bit of a challenge for a European shopping in the US for clothes. It is, sorry to say. But I found something, Yep, you like it? Cool, thank you. So, but I did ask about this thing of the lady behind the counter. Am I supposed to remove this? Because everyone's going to think this is a price tag. I said, no, you have to leave it on. It's a fashion statement. Oh, count me in. It's a fashion statement now. So I was showing off my fashion statement. Anywho, I wrote that book, Management 3.0. That's what sort of made me famous, quote unquote, in the Agile world, the small Agile community worldwide. About the role of the Agile leader in Agile organizations. I wrote that little book, How to Change the World, as a self-publishing experiment. You can get it for free. Just go to that URL, subscribe to my mailing list, download the book, and unsubscribe. Easy. Anyone can do that. That's simple. And then the last one, Managing for Happiness, I wrote a couple of years ago. 2 years ago was the last one. Until early this year when I wrote Startup, Scale Up, Screw Up. And that's basically what this talk is going to be about. So, I want to start with this picture. I am so old that I remember what happened over here off screen. The 80s is my era of favorite music, yes, So with my Sony Walkman on the side and 13 songs per side, you had to get your cassette out. Oops, tape got stuck. Use your pinky finger to get it all back in. And then CDs became big. A little bit of chauvinist patriotism pride there. Philips, Dutch company, played a big role there, the popularity of the CD. And then in 1999, something happened. Does anyone remember what happened in 1999? Napster happened, yeah. Illegal downloads of MP3s over the internet, that happened. And then revenues collapsed. And the experts say that it's not really clear if the people who were downloading MP3 songs were actually buying music otherwise. But then I say, then what else happened at exactly that moment? Isn't that a coincidence then? That there was something going on in the music industry, everything collapsed, and the CEOs of the big music businesses got worried, of course. And then we got legal downloads, iTunes a bit later, and streaming music, Spotify, Pandora, Deezer, such platforms. A lot of change in the last couple of decades. And here's another picture. Some of you have seen such pictures before, I'm quite sure. The adoption rates of technologies for television and telephone, it took decades. But nowadays, with smartphones and social media, it's like this. And then you have a new technology adopted by the majority of the population. So much change nowadays in the world, and that makes people worried. Makes people worried. It is described in this book by Clayton Christensen, much more famous than I am he is, with the Innovators Dilemma. He said, one business after the other, you see this happening, that the young disruptors completely revolutionize everything. And the current leaders in the business, they improve their products, sustaining innovation, that is called. Philips did improve the quality of CDs over time. They did get better. But at the same time, there's a completely different generation of startups that started with products of worse quality. If you downloaded music from the internet, it was an hour of work, and then you had a low bit rate of music, and then it was the wrong version, the Portuguese version. Oh my God. I had to start all over. But it was fun, and it was something that the new generation of consumers wanted, to get their music not from a store but from the internet. And then they improve their quality over time and catch up, basically. So that worries the leaders in basically every industry, to be disrupted by others who start out with products that are worse quality, but they will catch up. And this is what they want. They want to, on the one side, they want to execute their current business models, milk the cows, basically, optimize and have some exploitation and efficiency, etc. But on the other hand, they also want to explore for new opportunities, find new business models, find the replacements, basically. They want to have both. They want, as the British would say, they want to have their cake and eat it at the same time. They want to be in the EU and outside of it at the same time. As a typical British thing, I would say. Sorry? Oh, so how can we have a startup culture, but not give up on our scale-up culture at the same time? We want a bit of both. Well, that's the Innovators Dilemma. Some people try. I've been part of an innovation steering committee. Maybe you know them. Yeah, it was me as CIO of a company of 200 people. There was a CTO and a marketing manager, and we had an idea box with ideas submitted by employees. And when we emptied the box at the start of the month, there were 3 ideas in them. And then we looked at the first idea, and we said, didn't make any sense. Next idea. That made a lot of sense and cost $1 billion. So, sorry, can't do. And the third idea we threw away as well. And then, oops, the box was empty. And no surprise, the employees were very motivated. You reject all our ideas. And we said, you should submit better ideas. This is crap. So that did not really work well. Others have another approach with innovation centers. This is also suggested in the book by Clayton Christensen. Start a unit, an R&D unit, an innovation center somewhere else, outside of the corporate walls of the mother organization, because the immune system, the current culture is going to kill it if you do it in the same office wall. So start it somewhere else, somewhere far away, and have them come up with new products. But then the comment that I sometimes hear is, it looks all very fancy with colorful pillows and yoga mats and Aeron chairs and whatever, but I haven't seen an innovative product in 5 years. There's nothing coming out of the innovation center. The only innovative product we had to buy on the market, basically. So that is a bit of an issue. And hackathons are all the rage in the Agile community. Innovation days, exploration days, I described them in my previous book. Great idea, but people tell me, Jurgen, after the hackathon, we had lots of ideas, but nothing happened. We had lots of creativity and 24 hours of hacking and enthusiasm, and then the company didn't follow up on any of the ideas that we had. So I'm sure you know some of these pictures. Lots of methods, frameworks, models out there. I love them for their collections of good practices that they basically are, in my opinion. They're just toolboxes of common sense, useful suggestions. But none of them solve the innovator's dilemma. None of them tell you how to have this current business model that you want to optimize and that you use to pay for the whole business, basically, and at the same time explore new opportunities. Because raise the newer generation, basically. How do you do that? Well, I'm going to solve the innovator's dilemma right now in the next 45 minutes. I was like, yep, you will be very happy. Yay! Well, don't applaud yet. Wait until the end and see if it sounds good. So let's start at the beginning. Let's have a look at some disruptors. I'm going to have my bit of water because otherwise I might die before we end. And then you don't know the solution to the innovator's dilemma. That's not very useful. So let's have a look at the disruptors. I looked at the disruptors in Europe because we have pretty fancy disruptors in Europe as well. Pretty cool companies over there. I was at Spotify. I was at Rovio, makers of Angry Birds. I was at TransferWise in Tallinn, etc. I have heard the founding story of Airbnb like 17 times already. But did you know that Booking.com is 5 times bigger than Airbnb? And they're Dutch. So there you go. So I looked at, I had a conversation with the CIOs and agile coaches and HR managers across Europe. And I noticed that there's a common language in the startup scale-up scene. They talk in a similar way about the stages of their business ideas. And usually it starts with someone having an idea.
iPod, 1,000 songs in your pocket.
You remember that probably? 1,000 songs in your pocket. Now we have 1 billion songs in our pocket, and my kids are like, Spotify doesn't have my favorite album. Spotify sucks. God, I had just 25 songs in my pocket, you spoiled brat. But anyways, you see how requirements have evolved over time. But the iPod, that started with an idea of 1,000 songs in your pocket. That was clearly a product vision. There were already MP3 players on the market. Nobody knew how to use them except for technical people. So that was Steve Jobs' contribution to make a device that anyone could understand. That's a stage, first stage, initiation. And the second stage would be the expedition, as I call it. Figuring out if this idea makes any sense. You have to go out and validate what they call problem-solution fit. That's a common term in the startup scene, problem-solution fit. Is your solution solving somebody's problem? This is a stage that is often skipped by naive startup founders. I think in the blockchain cryptocurrency world, most of the teams have basically skipped stage 2. They had this idea of a product, fell in love with the new technology, started coding right away because they envisioned something that they would solve without doing any validation of any solution that they would target. So problem-solution fit is basically, in lean startup language, offering minimal viable products of the low fidelity type. That means you actually don't even have a product. You're just faking it. You're just pretending. Kickstarter is full of these kinds of products. They don't exist. They just have mock-ups, 3D models, etc. They haven't started production yet. They're just testing if somebody signs up to these new ideas. So suppose you have an idea for a new coffee bar. Well, I could run an experiment. I have as a learning goal, what is the best location for my new coffee bar? That's step 1. I want to start a new coffee bar somewhere in, I don't know, my hometown in Rotterdam, for example. And then I believe the best location of the coffee bar is in side street. That's an assumption. That's a very relevant, critical assumption. Maybe that's not a good location. So how could I test that assumption? Well, I could test by having a mobile coffee cart and sell coffee there in that street for a day. You can rent those carts and you can sell coffee and sell espressos and just see how much demand there is, if there's enough traffic, people passing by. That would be an adequate test. And then you could say, well, I fail when I sell fewer than 50 coffees per day, then I might go somewhere else. I know a mobile coffee cart in Brussels, where I live right now, in Belgium, where they actually tested various locations. What was the best location for them to be? And then they settled on a sweet spot between a university campus and a metro station. That was the best place to be, they found out. Great way of testing. So problem-solution fit. Suppose now that you have found out that people sign up to your Kickstarter project, you have these people saying, yeah, I want your coffee bar, I'm there every day on your with your mobile coffee cart, so now open the shop please and everything. Now you have a team to form. Now you have to invest in your product. They call it vision founders fit. External startups, independent startups will find capital, angel investors, for example. Internal startups will need a budget, ask from the innovation board or the CEO, whatever. But now you're going to invest. At this point, you might want to start drawing your lean canvas, for example. A popular tool based on the business model canvas, and adapted in such a way that the problem, solution, and key metrics have a key preference, for example. One moment. Oh, that's good. So, lean canvas, that's the right moment to start, I think, in stage 3. And then stage 4, validation. This is the most difficult stage, I heard, for startups. At this point, you have to start building a product that actually works. Can you now make something that people actually want to use? They call that product market fit. It is very easy to get false positives in the earlier stage. People say, yes, I love your Kickstarter project. Yes, I will be there in your coffee bar when you open it. And then you open your coffee bar and nobody comes. God, that's annoying. That's annoying. Now you need to make a product that is actually working for people. Convince them to actually use it. So at this point, you have minimal viable products of the high fidelity type. Can you make a product that people are actually using? This is the first picture that I saw online of the iPod. I don't have any versions of the early prototypes. But one story that I read of Steve Jobs, that sounds super funny. He had the product team come to him with yet another prototype version in product market fit stage, testing with Steve if he liked it or not, and he said, no, still too big. And they were like, this is the best we can do. They knew how important, thank you, how important it was to have a very thin model. So I said, no, still too big. It needs to be thinner. No, this is the best we can do. Well, let's see. And then he took the prototype, he walked to an aquarium, he dropped the prototype in the aquarium, and then bubbles came out. He said, look, there's air in there. Get it out. Amazing. Oops. Open it. Yeah. Good. Thank you, Stacy. So, next time, if you're unsure about product market fit, just find an aquarium and just throw it in. See if the bubbles appear. Stage 5, stabilization. Suppose you have product market fit that works. People sign up to your product. They use it actually. Now, are you ready to scale up? No. One thing I heard again and again, that startups scale up too soon. They're not ready for the big market for several reasons. One, if you did everything well, then you faked everything in the back end. You only focused on the front end facing stuff, the things that customers see that will convince them to use the product. In the back end, everything is a nightmare. It is a disaster. Nothing connects. Everything is not integrated. Technical debt goes through the roof. You don't care at that point still, because you're still figuring out the right product to make in the first place. So technical debt is irrelevant at that point. But now you know what the product is supposed to be. You can probably throw away 90% of your code that is unusable, but the other 10%, that needs to be fixed first. There you reduce technical debt, you come up with decent architecture, etc. Another thing to do in stage 5 is you switch from one audience to the other. You start with early evangelists, as they call them. That's a combination of innovators and early adopters, basically. Those early evangelists love you for your product vision and your idea, your new product experiments, and when they find a bug, they feel happy that they're the first ones to find the bug, and they will report it to you, and it's like a badge of honor. I found that bug. Woo! But then you switch to the early majority, and they don't want to see bugs. When they find a bug, they will not report it to you as a badge of honor. They will report it to all their friends on Facebook. Right? That's not what you want. So that's a different audience, the early majority. You have to change your marketing. You have to have customer support and all that stuff. One investor told me it can easily take another 3 years just to prepare for that early majority. So you can call that business market fit. After product market fit, are we now ready for the whole market with the entire business? Because the business is more than just the product with the customer-facing features. And by this time, you might want to switch to the business model canvas, on which the lean canvas was an adaptation. But the business model canvas, for example, has boxes such as key partnerships. Well, no partner is interested in partnering with you as long as your product doesn't work. So prove first that your product works, and then it makes sense from stage 5 to discuss partnerships. It all makes a lot of sense. Then acceleration. By the way, the pictures that you see are of my mother growing up. She's so proud that she's in my presentation. She spent the whole weekend going through all her photo albums, finding the perfect picture of all the life cycle stages that she could find. So she's really, really happy to be here with us. And from the look in her eyes as a teenager, you can see that she discovered new possibilities as a human being. We all know those years, right? Teenage years. Suddenly everything changes. Well, it's the same for business models. In stage 6, suddenly everything changes. Now we grow up. Now we start playing with the adults, basically. Different rules are going to apply. One mistake that I made was with my startup team is sending them to a growth hacking course. Well, growth hacking, in case you don't know, it is optimizing something that already works. So you need to have a product that works in principle, and then you endlessly tweak the messaging, the features, the button size, the text fonts, the colors, the positions, because even minor changes could have big effects in conversion rates. The premise is the foundation should work. Well, we were in stage 4, which is product market fit. We had a product that didn't work. So growth hacking is then like multiplying by 1,000 something that is 0. I don't have to explain to you, I think, the outcome of that experiment, of that course. Yeah. So that was a mistake. Growth hacking, that makes sense after product market fit. When the basics work, now you start tweaking endlessly all the features and the marketing around it. Then, bless you, last couple of stages, fast forward, crystallization, you now cornered the market. You're the leader there. Spotify has basically migrated from stage 6 to stage 7 now. They're profitable. They reported 2 or 3 quarters of profits, which is awesome, because some people believe they would never be able to, but they did. So they're now firmly in stage 7. From here, you must be profitable. Stage 6, you can still fake it. That's basically what Elon Musk is doing with all his companies. Just invest lots of capital as long as people believe in the scaling. Okay, you can get away with stage 6, but by stage 7, you need to be profitable. Otherwise, you die. Stage 8 is expansion. It is a midlife crisis for the product, basically. Dressing in colorful clothes. No. When a product appears in lots of different colors, you know that the end is in sight. They ran out of ideas. What shall we do now? We don't have a pink version yet. We also don't have a green version yet. Why not make the entire rainbow? What a great idea. Awesome. Well, there we go. That's midlife crisis of any product. The beginning of the end. Stage 9 is conservation. By this time, everything is collapsing, basically. Things are not working well anymore. Probably the business is losing money, but you keep it operational because you still love it. There's still important customers using it. And by stage 10, okay, you said this is over. Just migrate everyone to a younger product and just switch it off. So those are the 10 life cycle stages. This is the archetypical pattern, basically, of any product, service, business model. They all go through those life cycle stages. It can take just a few years. Like I was at Rovio in Helsinki in the games industry. For a game, this can happen in just a span of 2 years. There's the original idea all the way to scaling up and collapsing, and it's over, and there's a new game already. In other businesses, insurance, it could take a century or more. But they all start up, scale up, screw up at some point. And in the beginning, you explore, you try to do the right thing, and over time, you switch to execution, where you do that thing right, once you figured out what that right thing is. So this is a very important curve over the life cycle of a business model. And here you can see the results of the iPod. Over here is internal experimentation, product market fit. The aquarium was here somewhere. And then product market fit, yes, scaling up, yes, stage 6, we corner the market, stage 7, stage 8, oh my God, what do we do now? Let's make a pink version, 9, 10, dead. Anyone still has an iPod here in the audience? No, me over there? Yeah, awesome. Last one, oh, over there, last one. Hold on to it. So, what I learned is, as with the growth hacking example, different rules apply to different stages. You can do some things too early or some things too late. It depends on where you are. This is a very cute family picture. Look at the sexy pants that I was wearing when I was 10 years old. Fashion statement there, yep. And this is my little brother, Jeroen, the rascal. You can see on the look on his face that he was planning something devious again. He was like that every day, my little brother. Oh, we have stories of him, I can tell you. He complained to my mother that I was allowed to come home anytime I wanted, but he had to be home at 6. It was not fair, he said to mother. It was not fair. Well, first of all, my mom said, Jurgen is 3 years older, so there are different rules, duh. And second, maybe you can get the same rules as Jurgen has if at least for a year I don't have to pick you up from the police station anymore, okay? My little brother, I remember one time, 5 o'clock in the morning, my mother got a phone call from the police. Yeah, we have your son again. And she was like, you call me for that? My God. Okay, I will pick him up at 10. I have to go to the supermarket first. That was our family life. He's okay now. I love my brother. That's why I can tell these stories. But we had so much fun with him. Anyways, so different rules for different life cycle stages. I will give you a concrete example. OKRs are all the rage in the Agile community. I'm sure some of you have seen objectives and key results. I'm not going to explain what they are. But one thing I noticed in the startup world, nobody talks about OKRs. I haven't heard anyone referring to them a single time. What they talk about is the Northstar Metric. It's something different, simpler. One goal that unifies the entire self-organizing team. One metric that rules them all, basically. It is the single metric that best captures the core value that we are after. And then let them self-organize. It is simple. One thing I heard about OKRs is that it can take a year to just implement it in a larger organization. And it is awesome, but it's also a bit complicated for people to understand. Well, this is super simple. And the Northstar metric could be shareholder facing. When you're in a new funding round, for example, you need to convince your shareholders. So monthly recurring revenue or daily active users, those are metrics that shareholders love to see. And then when you have their money, switch to a customer facing metric, such as minutes of player activity per month or the total order size per customer. One thing that validates that you are delivering value to your customers and you relentlessly optimize that thing and you ignore basically lots of other things. So I thought, why not both in a business? Why can I not do Northstar metric with the young ones, with the kids who are still in exploration, figuring out what the product is in the first place that they need to make? And then the adults, they can do OKRs. They know what they're supposed to do. They're optimizing an existing business. They just need to get better at it. That makes total sense to me. Different rules for different ages. Why do we not have more of these discussions in the Agile community? We always have all these frameworks and methods, when thou shalt do this and thou shalt do that, and same practice for everyone, but everyone is not the same, everyone is different. It depends on where their business models are in the life cycle. So different ages need different practices. That is one conclusion that I had after last year, and that is basically the first key to solving the Innovators Dilemma. Use the business life cycle. Practices depend on the maturity of the business model. And just to clarify, to avoid any misunderstandings, when I talk about the maturity of the business model, I'm not talking about the maturity of a team. Right? That is a completely different topic. It's like orthogonal. Right? You could have a highly mature team working on a very immature business model. That will be perfect. That's an experienced team trying to come up with a new product. You could also have a very immature team working on a mature business model. I'm sure you Agile coaches know quite a few of those. So those have nothing to do with each other. The second key. I'm sure some of you know this picture, the design thinking process by Stanford D School. I love all the design thinking stuff. It's awesome. I read the books, I talk with design thinkers, I try a little bit myself. I'm not good at it anyway, but anyways, I find it fascinating. I just have one problem. That's this picture. I don't like it. Does anyone know or care to guess why I don't like this picture? Testing takes place too late, you say. Okay, yeah. It's too waterfallish. Yeah, it looks a bit waterfall. They don't intend it like that. I talk with the design thinkers. They say, yeah, it's all iterative, like we say in the Agile world. It's a messy process, actually. But then some people have tried to codify it with this diagram, and I think, oh my God, if you show this to naive people, then they are going to implement things in a waterfallish way. Okay, empathizing we will do in February, then defining early March, ideate end of March, we can prototype in May, April, and then test before the end. Yeah, we can launch in June. That's how, I heard that this is how design thinking is then implemented, just because the picture sucks, in my opinion. Same with this one. So this is the European version, the Design Council in the UK, same issue. Discover, define, develop, deliver. They use different words. It looks sequential. They do have these lines that are a little bit vague. They go back to earlier stages, but yeah, I don't like the picture very much. Then there's the design sprint process, which is very popular because it's like Scrum versus Agile, is design sprint versus design thinking, and makes it very concrete with a simple process. This is what you can do in a week. Makes sense, but still it looks sequential, what we do in 1 week, and then you're supposed to do this every now and then, repeatedly. But all these pictures look a bit sequential. I like this picture better of the lean startup. It has a circle in it. Woohoo, what an innovative idea. Thank God. So that's nice. But there's something else that I don't like about this picture. Isn't it something, there's something missing? Discover. Yeah, discover. Build, measure, learn. Build what? Where do the ideas come from that you build? Well, hypothesizing, well, even before that, get out of the building. Steve Blank says get out of the building. You can buy t-shirts that say get out of the building. Go and empathize with customers. Exactly the same what the design thinkers say. Makes no difference. It's just missing in the picture. You draw half of the end of the whole method. So this is where I come in. I'm really good at stealing stuff from various sources and comparing them and then seeing, okay, what is missing? How can I improve on that? How can I stand on the shoulders of giants and just reach one step higher? So we have here those models that are great, but the pictures suck. This half is missing with a lean startup. I like this distinction between measure and learn. I appreciate that, which is missing here in the design thinking models. They mean it, of course. From testing, you should learn. From delivering, you should learn, but it's not in the picture. And what all of them are missing is one aspect, which design thinkers call framing, problem framing, is where do we want to focus in the first place? It starts with empathize. Well, there are 8 billion people on the planet. I cannot empathize with everyone. I have difficulty empathizing with 2 people. So I need to narrow the scope somehow. So that's another kind of work. How do we decide where we want to operate in this world? What our problem is going to be? So I came with a different picture. That's my only contribution. I merged design thinking and lean startup. I think it's all awesome, but I think it deserved a different picture. So it is circular, and because I don't like the word circle, it's a bit boring, I looked up in the dictionary for any synonyms, and I came up with the word vortex, and I thought, yeah, that's it. Vortex sounds powerful, it sounds dynamic, it sounds like messy, it sounds a little bit dangerous even, which is good. And it also communicates that everything can happen at the same time. It is not like a process of 7 discrete steps. No, it is chaos. That's what innovation is. That's what design thinkers say. I can do all those steps on different days in the week. It's just, I try to cover all of it, but I cannot tell you what exact moment I will be empathizing or what exact moment I will be hypothesizing, whatever. It's just anarchy, basically. So it's nonlinear, dynamic, and messy experience. That's the vortex, what the vortex tries to communicate. But we have different practices in that vortex, in different moments, different things that we do. For example, I learned that hackathons are great, but they're not the best way to come up with ideas. Because what you do with a hackathon is you let your employees do the thinking and coming up with possible new ideas for customers. You know what's even a better idea? Just look at what customers are doing. Just go out there, sit and watch. Just observe them struggling and observe them complaining and being frustrated or being delighted, and then understanding the context within which they are trying to do their job. So that's ethnographic research, they call it. The researcher goes to the place that he or she is researching. And then from that, we could come up with an empathy map, for example. There's a picture that I took with my team a couple of months ago. We just collected all those insights for conversations and observations, etc. We just threw it on a big map on the wall, and then the sense-making starts. What are they talking about? When are they complaining? When are they paying attention? What do they hear? What is their environment look like? And then we can start narrowing it down with lean personas, for example. A lean persona is just a description, a story around an archetypical user, a fake customer who represents the whole group. Like my customer is Mark, lives in Amsterdam, loves specialty stores and hip and trendy, a coffee drinker, but commutes on a bike because he's Dutch, so there's a bike obvious. But there's no coffee bars on the way to work. That's annoying. That's annoying for Mark. He has no good coffee places on his commute to work. So we now have a story. We now have someone we can empathize with. And it turns out the product teams benefit from these stories. This helps them to empathize with the customer, which is easier than with statistics and demographical information. And then key is to understand what is the job to be done. What is it that Mark really wants? Because it can be that Mark says he wants great coffee, but maybe that's not what he actually needs. If you look at my behavior, I always say I'm in for the great coffee. I just want the best coffee there is. But give me a choice between a higher rated coffee bar, 4.8 on Google Maps rating, whatever, where you cannot sit, versus a Starbucks, I go to Starbucks. Why? Because I want to sit. I want to sit for 2 hours. I want to do my work, enjoying my coffee, get my stuff done. And if you don't offer me a chair and a convenient place to be for 2 hours, then sorry, I will not drink the coffee. So the job to be done is not just the coffee. It is more, it is the experience of being in a pleasurable environment, drinking coffee, and being able to get my work done. Same for our customer, our lean persona, Mark. For 20 minutes, he just wants to sit and enjoy coffee. That is the job to be done that you need to define. And once you know that, I heard the word hypothesize. Yes, now we can come up with hypotheses of what could work, what kind of coffee bar would Mark like, what kind of product would help him or her get the job done. So we have our original product vision on the one hand, lean persona and job to be done on the other hand, and in the middle, we come up with hypotheses. This is the value proposition canvas, by the way. The gains that we're going to create, the pains that we're going to relieve for our lean persona. And I showed you the example of the lean experiment, of implementing those experiments and testing whether it got the job done. Where does all of that sit? Well, easy. Ethnographic research, empathy maps over here, and then we have the lean personas and job to be done sits over there, and then we have the lean experiment testing, hypothesizing, value proposition canvas sits over there. Is 4/7 of the innovation vortex we've already covered with that kind of work. There are hundreds of more practices, but I'm just giving you some examples of where they sit in the vortex. I have another one. Journey mapping. Journey mapping is the idea of describing what happens with the customer in their interaction with your product and your company and the various touch points that they have, and then finding out when they have wow moments and when they have a what the moment. We call them the moments of truth. Now there's a problem here, two problems. One is there is a wow moment, but it is much too late. You want your wow moment as early as possible in the journey. As soon as possible, you need to think, wow, this is an amazing thing, right? And know what the fuck moments, oh sorry, what the F moments. sorry, Stacy, sorry. Know what the F moments, right? At least try to get rid of them. So, I'll give you an example. My first touch point with any coffee bar usually is Google Maps. I'm in a strange city, I travel a lot, I open Google Maps, I type coffee, sort by distance, highest rated, open now, and I start walking to the nearest coffee bar that says self-ground coffee beans, barista, whatever, right, with good pictures. So I walk, and this has happened several times in Europe, where I usually am. I walk for 20 minutes, and there's no coffee bar. What the? Okay. Someone did not take care of their address details on Google Maps. How hard can it be to make sure that you're presented there properly? It's not that difficult. Okay, give me the next one. Closed for the holidays. Okay, next one. Starbucks. Anything is fine. Just give me my coffee. So I arrive at a coffee bar. It looks fancy. I see people sitting there in comfortable chairs with computers. Looks like they have Wi-Fi. Ooh, this is going to be a great place. I order my cafe latte, and the barista gives me a latte macchiato. What the? Okay, so this is a very important moment in this presentation. Okay, so this is the takeaway that I want you to get out of this. Here we go. Okay, over there we have the latte macchiato. Okay, it usually comes in a glass. It is hot milk first, and then you throw in the espresso. It literally means stained milk, the latte macchiato, with the stain of the espresso makes when you throw it in. Right? This is how Italians teach babies how to drink coffee, basically. Okay? Now over there we have the cafe latte. It is an American invention. It emerged here at this continent. It was because the Americans were used to drinking brown water, right? And then the Italians introduced espressos and cappuccinos, and Americans were like, ooh, this is very strong. So the Italians made the cups bigger and threw in more milk, and then you have the milky coffee, the cafe latte, the milk cafe. So lots of words for it in Europe as well. And then the milk comes last, and you can make latte art. That's Instagrammable. That's a wow moment. Teach your baristas how to make latte art, right? That is a wow moment. So I order a cafe latte, that one. I get a latte macchiato, that one. And I tell the barista, that's not a cafe latte. That's a latte macchiato. And the barista says to me, that's the same thing. And then I tell the barista, well, if that's the same thing, then a barista is the same as a plumber. Because you obviously don't care about the order of the fluids. So, coffee with milk is not milk with coffee. This is a very important, I'm on a mission here. The problem in Europe is big because the cafe latte got introduced to Europe. So when the latte macchiato comes here, I predict this is going to be horrendous. Anyways, why does that sit? Journey mapping sits here, right? You have an idea of what your product, how it is supposed to work, but you sense, you validate, is that indeed the experience that I am after? Do they have the wow moments in the right place? Are there any what the F moments that I should be aware of? So I have a big, a small self-assessment exercise. It looks very fancy. It's a vortex with just a few numbers to rate yourself. It's a nice retro exercise for a team, I think. Just create some self-awareness. Are we covering the entire vortex? Our process may be messy, but at some point we should be empathizing with customers. At some point we should be making hypotheses. At some point we should sense what customers do with our product and look what is happening there. So at some point we should cover the entire vortex. And it's a self-assessment tool. You give yourself points, and it's ridiculous, but I like it anyways. So where does that sit here on the curve? We have exploration to execution. Disruptive innovation sits here. Sustaining innovation sits over there. And there's a gradual shift. In the beginning, you're mainly being disruptive, but the older you get as a business, the more you will become sustaining innovation. You still improve, you get older, but you still learn, I hope. In the beginning, the vortex could be spinning like crazy with your self-organizing startup team. But by the time you get here, there could be hundreds of people involved in that business model. And the vortex is spinning more slowly. There's still innovation going on. But it's more of the sustaining type. It is not disruptive anymore. So, second key to solving the innovator's dilemma is gradually shifting from the disruptive to the sustaining kind of innovation. That depends on on the maturity of your business model and the product or service you're working on. Last part, I have 50 minutes to go, right on time. So I told you about the Innovation Steering Committee. One mistake that I made was that I was trying to predict which of the ideas would be successful, which ideas in the idea box would be the next big thing that we would be making all the money with. The problem is we cannot make such predictions. It's impossible. You cannot know just from a piece of paper what is going to make you a lot of money a few years down the line. This is explained very well by Robert Cooper, who is the inventor of the stage gate process. He has a really nice metaphor for it.
The first thing to remember is it's a bit like playing poker. When you sit down at the poker table and you start betting, you don't put all your money on the table. You put maybe $2 or €2, and you get a few cards. And then you bet a little bit more money, and you get a few more cards and more information. In other words, new product projects, you never bet all the money at the beginning. It's a stepwise process. It's an incremental commitment. As you learn more, you bet more.
It's a step-by-step process, an incremental commitment, like playing poker. As you learn more, you bet more. Anyone who plays games understands that. Anyone who invests understands that. You don't put all your money on the table right at the start. No, you need information first. How do you get information? From validated learning, as lean startuppers say. So my problem was that I was trying to predict, based on no information whatsoever, which idea was going to be a big success. Impossible. Impossible. I was seeing it like a tunnel, a pipeline. The innovative idea comes in, and when we commit to the innovative idea, it has to go through the entire pipeline and come out all the way at the end. It's like a digestive system of innovation. We were trying to excrete innovative products, basically. That doesn't work like that. It is a funnel. It is like a game. It is like Game of Thrones. Season 1, lots of families. Season 2, fewer have died. Season 3, more and more are killed. The further you get in the series, the fewer remain. That is exactly also how the startup world works. Anyone can start on stage 1. But the further you get, the more will have died, just because they're unable to get the information that they need to show that their idea is making sense in the first place. Excuse me. And Robert Cooper says in another part of his video that there is a 60-to-1 attrition rate. Imagine that. For all the ideas in the idea box after a hackathon, only 1 out of 60 will be that golden ticket for the company to a bright future. But which one is it? You don't know. I have no idea of validating that at that point. So the only way to do that is just let everyone start. And then you give everyone a little bit of money. And based on that, you tell them, you do problem-solution fit first. Come back when you have problem-solution fit. Well, maybe half of them are unable to find it. All right, goodbye. And you continue with the other half, and then you give them the next assignment, and they get further and further. Vision founders fit, product market fit, all the way. Here's another metaphor.
Come on! Upside, inside out. She's living la vida loca. It sounded like 2 3-year-olds who've got flu trying to sing.
I love Simon Cowell. He has insults much better than I can come up with. So it's like X Factor, it's like Britain's Got Talent or whatever program you love. All the candidates can start. They just have to show that thing to a jury of investors, of an innovation board or whatever. It's like Innovation Board 3.0. Everyone can start. We do not decide based on a CV or a business plan which is the next winner. No, just show what you can do. That's why they have demo days at incubators and accelerators. They literally ask the startups to show what they have, what validated learning they have accumulated, what is their evidence, what is traction, what is retention, what are your numbers. Show it to us. And then we decide if we want to invest for you in the next stage. So many options, we can pick only a few. That's how the game works. So, create an innovation funnel. Create your own great game of business. It is not enough to just have a hackathon. That's stage one. It's a great idea. I would also suggest doing ethnographic research, by the way, in stage one. Just go out and look at problems and then come up with ideas. But then you need to know what is the next stage. What does problem-solution fit look like? What is the budget for that? Right? How are we going to give that to them to start their validated learning in our great game of business? So how can we have a startup culture, but we don't want to lose our scale-up culture at the same time? Well, forgive me, I'm still working on this. It looks complicated, but it is not. We have the funnel. I'd like to draw it bottom to top because it's like a game. It's like achieving next levels of maturity of your idea. And this is product vision here. Problem solution fits, vision founders fit, product market fit, business market fit, all these stages, you can simply define them. We have people who decide whether or not you earned the right to get a budget that you can spend in the next stage. That's the innovation board's responsibility. That's what investors do. That's the portfolio management, whatever you want to call it, I don't care. It comes down to the same thing. You need to have allocated budgets for those different stages in the funnel. And the vortex, it rotates all the time. You're always busy with design thinking, lean startup, agile, lean, etc. So one thing I now start to realize is that maybe we have thrown away the baby with the bathwater a little bit when we got away from the bad waterfall kind of stages that big old company used to create their processes, and they said, no, we want things to be agile, iterative. Yes, I agree. But the concept of stages is fundamental to investment. It is fundamental deciding to creating the great game. Only the problem has always been the stages were very poorly defined. They defined the stages as idea, business case, project, testing, deliver. Right? That's absolutely the worst way to define stages. Nobody in the startup world works like that. We do all of that in every stage, all the time. We deliver all the time. In every stage, the vortex is rotating. We're agile and lean. But we still need stages because someone needs to make the decision. These are the good ideas. Sorry. These are the bad ones. You can try again another time, but we can only invest in so much. This is the future of the business we're talking about. And then we will have some arrive here. They are the money makers. 7 and 8, they pay for everything. And I think we need to have a little bit more respect sometimes in the Agile community for those who make all the money here. Sometimes we come in and tell them, you do everything wrong over there. And well, if I were them, I was thinking, if we did everything wrong, then how am I able to pay your fees? We must be doing something right if we have the money to pay your consultancy fees. So there must be something we did right that we got here in the first place. Because very few actually are able to get there to stage 7 and 8. But yes, there are things that they need to change. They need to be more agile and lean and more innovative. But the kind is very different compared to the kind of innovation that they need over here. The practices, they will be very, very different. So, for example, you all came here. Some of you, I'm sure, will have paid to get here into this amazing conference. There are plenty of companies where you have to file a request to be able to pay for a conference ticket, right? It's an expense. This needs to be validated by someone. That makes total sense for a business in stage 7, because you know what the biggest risk is over here? Profitability. The business must be profitable. So we have to introduce some policies, some procedures that make total sense in stage 7 to make everyone aware we take care of expenses here. We have a double check. Over here, it makes no sense whatsoever. The biggest risk there is not profitability, it's making a product that nobody wants. That's the big problem in stage 3 and 4. So what do investors do? They just give those startups a budget, and with this budget, you're supposed to get to product market fit. And you know what? Anything you want to spend your money on, I don't care, it comes out of that budget. Good luck. And then if the startup founders want to come to a conference, they will find very creative ways to get into a conference without paying. By doing keynote speeches, for example. Or volunteering or whatever. So the rules of the game should be completely different, as my brother found out when he was young, depending on the life cycle stage. So going back to these models, as I said, I don't want to criticize them too much. I have great respect for all the collections of good ideas there, but I do think we should make an effort of trying to understand what makes sense depends on which life cycle stage, because not everything applies to startups. Not everything that applies to the grown-ups. Some things may not even apply to them at all, like those in stage 9 and 10. Like those people in the family, we just have to respect them for their age and not try to change them anymore, okay? Yeah, just sit there. We'll make you a nice pie or whatever. And the rest of the family will try to do the changing, but you just enjoy the life that you have had. It's the same with all these frameworks and models. We should be more respectful, more mindful of where our teams are with their products and services in their life cycle stages. So, as I said, I steal a lot. There's very little that I can come up with myself. Lots of stuff is already out there. The problem is it is rather fragmented. That's my role. I collect everything. So there's great stuff in Eric Ries's The Startup Way, where he describes innovation funnels at General Electric and other big companies. Robert Cooper, I just showed you a brief part of a video, Winning at Products, written rather in an old-fashioned way, but the stage gate model definitely makes sense. Only the stages need to be defined properly, not design, build, test, but problem, solution fit, vision, founders fit, product market fit. That is how the industry startup world works. And in the middle, the corporate startup, also full of good ideas. I like this metaphor to round it up. A product is like an organism, right? It is born, it grows, and it dies. It starts up, it scales up, and it screws up. And the organization is like a species. It should consist of lots of these products that endlessly help the species to evolve and to basically live almost forever, theoretically. I mean, some species have been out there for millennia, and they still exist. And then the bigger economy, that's like the biosphere. That's a very suitable analogy, I think. So the only way not to be disrupted is to disrupt yourself, as Apple does. And my message is go forth and make more babies or more startups. I mean, I think that's a really good message to have. So some of you have my book. I saw some copies already. Happy to sign them, of course. And last but not least, if you want to be part of this conversation, I'm building a community around these ideas, because I'm also learning as I go. I explain now where I am in my thinking, but nothing is solidified yet. So if you want to be part of the conversations, feel free to sign up, have my conversations with me on Slack, and I will share with you all the templates, the lean startup lean experiment template, and innovation vortex exercise, etc. You can get them at the same time as well. Thank you so much for listening, and enjoy the rest of the conference.